So they might be able to go on their revenge tour later on. I'm not sure if they're playing them tomorrow or the day afterwards. For everybody who doesn't know, these group stages, hello, for one, I'm Evac, there's Jerry, this Challenger League group stages.
Hello.
In Group B, we've got Rebels Gaming versus Ovation. That will be the other stream. That you should be able to find that somewhere else. And then this is Viperio86 versus Helios. That full group, it's very tough to call. I think this might be one of the hardest individual ties to decide as well, especially on a map like Bank, which isn't as traveled for either of these recently as well.
I personally have these two teams going through. Helios are continuing their meme ban.
Is it just me? Helios, are you doing this to me on purpose?
This matters now. This, like, I can understand doing it in the final qualifier, but okay, all right, and
Very
it's a no ban.
interesting.
I'm beginning to think this is actually their strat.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe throw your opposition off. Maybe it's a mental game.
Yeah, nobody plays with, no bans, and maybe it is just something that they're used to doing and that they want to do. They want to keep their options open.
Yeah.
So an interesting one.
If you're good at lots of different operators and you have lots of different strategies, I suppose not banning could give you the option to do that. But either way, there's a lot of room for different combinations. This Bank game, this is probably going to be more intense than a lot of Bank games that you see just via those bans alone.
I mean,
because there are so many more options.
Just look at the 86 roster. In case you are wondering where these names have come from, we did have a little bit of a sort of shuffle around the end of the EUCL season, in case that's where you're familiar with these names. You may well be familiar with the name right in the middle of your screen there, Joe, switching to the Castle of the Valkyrie. Famed for his brief stint on Na'Vi alongside Doki. They were a terrible twosome. Didn't quite work out in terms of team synergy, but they were both, essentially the same player. And Joe, yeah, on his day is an absolute menace. Expect to see at least 4 or 5 runouts per game with this man. I don't know, maybe Monkeys put a leash on him. Oh, sorry, Curly's the why am I not ELO? IGL. For some reason, my brain just tried to come up with the.
You won't get ELO
there.
without an IGL, Jerry.
No,
That's
that
what
is
is coming
true.
into your head.
I think
you need
Joe-
that leader in the squad.
Maybe. Well, they don't have leader. That's the other UK side. There's a UK side with leader on. I'm all over the place, right?
Yeah.
This is descended.
This is unprecedented. Helios, it certainly isn't with you, Jerry. Either way, they're bringing along the Dockerby. They've not banned anything out. There's obviously a lot of focus we can draw to them immediately via that. It's not the most surprising thing to bring a Dockerby, but we've got to see what Nails can do with it on this top floor defense. Viperio, they have a very nice lineup of defenders to do. They can do a lot with this, but it definitely implies quite a deep hold.
That it does. We have, of course, got that Buck as well, who's quite adept for this site at removing any sort of drone or breach denial, rather, off those walls. But Nails is going to be the first to claim a kill, and Joe being the first death. Get used to that, guys.
Jerry's mean streak continues as Joe.
He's earned this reputation.
Yeah.
It's not out of nowhere.
Okay, fair enough. I don't have any personal gripes with you, Joe. It's all Jerry. Anyway, 2 minutes left to play. Helios with a nice little advantage to start things off. A lot of repelling going on, a lot of checking of angles, but Viperio, there's no real pressure within the site to force them to move into these angles as of yet. Nitro already solo. No, actually not solo. He's got a teammate there, both moving up as a little duo to try and pick as many kills as they can. Naos falls elsewhere. Purple and I believe Nitro in that position. A little bit exposed. The defenders certainly know where they are, but they know where Monkey is at the very least. Forcing him back with that breaching round momentarily. An awkward stall here, as no one knows who's going to take the first engagement. Curly is the one to do it and shuts down Robin. Awkward position now for Helios, as they don't have that support. And they could potentially get flanked here with split attention.
Where is Brian? He's in Narnia while Nitro is trying to push the site right now up against 4 defenders who are sitting pretty. There's virtually no pressure. besides from this lobby position, and that seems to be the issue right now for Helios. They lost a body early on these windows, and now it's Brian's job to try and get back on those, but those castle barricades will really limit the lines of sight that he can gain from said position. So a lot resting on Nitro here as he stuns out Akari. 44 seconds left. Start worming his way through, gives away his position, and maybe the pop-up will come from Akari, but he misses the shots, and the LMG will take him down. Brian is felled, however, by the Roni of Draw, and now 1 versus 3, and he does take down one with him, but Curly is there to pick up the pieces. A nice hold from 86, great use of the castle to dissect this site. Hold from various positions, and 86 get their first on the board.
There's a nice piece of art they've sculpted there on the top floor, and using it very well in the end. A very nice shot, I've got to say, from Nitro, quickly reacting to that castle, but it's not going to net you anything. 0 rounds for Helios, and a lot of that was in the mid-round, where they pushed a lot of players very direct, and stalled out in that banana position, and didn't look quite in shape. Lockers and CCTV room will be opted for next, with the clash pick shown, not actually stuck. Maybe a bit of concern for their opposition. When you leave operators around like that, they bander out. We saw a clash ban in the previous game, for example.
Yeah.
You can always worry some opposition. They're going to have to make sure their intel is on point here, Helios.
Anyone unfamiliar with EBAC will know that he says the words clash ban with a heavy heart.
Oh,
well, they won't know that. Yeah. So it's yeah, EBAC the clash man.
At EBAC Entertains, being my new but I used to be known as EBAC Clash main. Because she's a very useful operator, and I'm hoping we see her a bit during some of these games.
Not today. Well, not this game. Not yet. Not yet. I do like this lineup from Viperio86. It's essentially entirely intel. So much intel to be gained, so much intel to be denied. And it's a great way to play bank, quite honestly. They've got this bottom floor hold. They have reinforced the hatches inside of open and small office, which does mean that they don't have the option to retreat down quite as flexibly as some teams, say Pavana, might do on their particular hold of this basement. But it is a strong site nonetheless. No matter how you spin it, it's going to be difficult for Helios to mount any sort of attack here regardless. They are taking that IQ as a direct counter to the Valkyrie. And the one thing that stands out to me here is the Dokkaebi on the lineup. An early pick onto, say, oh, I don't know, Joe, might mean that a hacked camera gets incredible value against this defense.
Yeah, that could really prove useful right
Is he just walking into sight?
Oh, yes, Naos is just going straight on in. I mean, MK14 in hand, he seemed quite confident with it. I don't know why, because he was a simple pick for Joe. Thankfully, the support is there elsewhere as Brian manages to get an eventual refrag. And Robin does the same thing, and he goes. It's despite all the intel remaining for Viperio, the Echo, the Valkyrie that they've got on board. Well, they've used it now, finally, and they've managed to take a whole bunch of kills. Make that all of them. Round taken by the defense. I am perplexed, to say the very least.
Well, it was a fantastic collapse by Viperio86. It did seem like it was happening a bit slowly, but the fact is that Helios's push underneath was happening even slower. There was a slight disconnect there. Nails pushed deep into sight, and I think he got more than he bargained for. Maybe gave the call that it was empty and a quick rush could be possible, but that was the bait and switch that Viperio86 were going for all along. They didn't have the hatches open, and that did concern me, because when you're playing that kind of style, quite often you do want that so that you can leverage the vertical control against the attackers who tried to slip in. But they came down main stairs quickly enough, and that just meant they had enough bodies on site. Very crucial there that Joe found the opening frag, again being on that sort of, you know, at the lead engagement, regardless of whether he comes out on top or not. And
slowed down the move either way, just
exactly.
a little bit, which gave the rest of the team the opportunity to get in and secure the round. It was strange though from Helios. I guess technically you might label that as a rush, but it
was a slow one.
of sorts. But whatever it was, a bizarre attempt, it failed. 2-0 down already on the attacking side. Jerry, you know a bit more about Bank than I do. What did defenders a bit happier on this one? Would you say attackers, or is it more even one?
The jury's out, I would say, at the moment.
Yeah.
it sort of varies from team to team quite honestly. At the moment, there are teams that are better at it and teams that are worse, but in general, it does have that slightly more defender-sided leaning. I mean, one of the problems with this map before the rework was that, bar the basement hold, it was nigh on indefensible in a lot of places, mainly because of the window repels. Joe once again proving his worth with his opening frags, finding Robin, and the buck is a significant loss for this site. You really want to be leveraging that vertical control from CEO down into tellers potentially. Can also help with the open area clear, but once again, this is not, you know, a watertight hold from Viperio86. They are playing quite fast and loose. They are playing for the kills, it would seem, and that does mean that there are gaping holes on a very large map that can work against them. So we just saw, for instance, Purple sneak up blue stairs. He didn't go for anything in that instance, but you could see that the opportunity was there.
Oh, draw. Getting over-aggressive on the mirror of all operators, quite surprisingly. Brian, easy enough to shut that down from the skylight and move in. Try and find their supporting player inside of the janitor's closet. He doesn't quite see the smoke at first, but does confirm it before any damage can be dealt by the smoke. Joe falls as well. Things going from bad to worse for Viperio. A 4 versus 2 advantage now for Helios. Making quick work of this round, but Purple is pinched from underneath and above. On the south stairs, Curly finding that kill. Away in for the defense, and it's equalized thanks to Akari. Nails is in close support though for the refrag. Eventually takes him down. Curly's left all on his lonesome, and I'm sure Helios will have some idea of where he was given that kill. He got a moment before. He still finds the first, and Jerry, it's a 1 versus 1 with a lot of time remaining.
Curly, not often the one called upon, but this backline of 86, they can frag just as good as the rest of them. It's one of the things that really sets them apart in not just the UK scene, but in Challenger League. So many talented players here. Brian on the other side of the coin. He's got 1 frag in hand and diffuser, 58 seconds to work with. He has an entry onto site. Curly's holding these very long angles, but it looks as though Brian has slipped through the net somewhat. This open piece of wall by Printer. Curly can try and get the peek onto him. He will dodge back and forth. He's spraying, but doesn't quite connect there. Using the hard cover of the bomb chassis, planting slightly out in the open. Very smart move, and he swings on the castle, taking the initiative in that post plant, grabbing himself and Helios their first round of the day.
That was a fabulous round from the Sledge in particular. Starting it off nicely with that move, taking down the mirror from the skylight, moving through over to janitors and shutting down the smoke he knew was in that position. And then he finishes it off brilliantly in the 1 versus 1. Incredible individual play from Brian to give Helios their first round. Things looking up, certainly, that we didn't see too many signs that Helios were starting strongly. That's the first little indication to begin with, and hopefully they can move on from there, use that as a basis as we return to the second floor site, Executive Lounge and CEO office, where Helios are picking again to this castle. They had a very... It's not the most bizarre, but it is certainly an inventive setup to lock down certain areas. But now that now that Helios are aware of that particular setup, I'm interested to see how that might change or whether they'll go for the same.
So the interesting thing to me about Castle on Bank is that he's seen a fair amount of change since the last time Bank was viable. You know, gaining that super shorty secondary helped him so much to assist with the setup, and I mean, soon he may well have an extra armor panel, which is a fantastic buff for him. He's
really?
always been, being tested out on the TS as we speak. But at the moment, I mean, he was always a kind of mainstay on Bank for the top floor, but he's being utilized even wider. We just saw, for instance, 86 take him for that middle floor hold, just making sure that the top floor was still rather well protected. And the way that he's using these barricades here, similar to the way that I'd say Virtus Pro have been doing it in EUL so far, just to sort of divide the site in half. It's weird. It actually goes against that age-old, you know, don't reinforce between sites thing that you had back in the early years of Siege. In fact, for this, you want to be locking off those sight lines. You want to be making sure that the attackers have a harder time fighting the long angles from square or from lobby or from these rappels even. And it's a very nice use of it. It means that you can open up some angles that favour the defenders instead. So do expect to see those in action. And expect to see Joe on your kill feed one way or another in the first few minutes here.
You've been very right about him so far in this game. I don't think that's going to change given what we've seen. Helios, they've been quick to move in. I'm getting Riddle kind of vibes from what we just saw in the previous game. They do like to move in nice and quickly, get your feet on into the map as soon as possible. They certainly did it by taking across from the west the last round, but it didn't really see them to anything, unfortunately. With the lack of presence over there, though, from the defense, they are doing that yet again. Nitro takes up this position with the close support of Brian, with the diffuser as well. With his confidence he gained from that previous round, it could be strong. However, he's lost his teammate. Akari gets the better of him inside of meeting.
Akari, one of the newer pickups as well for Viperio86. Very experienced himself. That experience is showing, but he does go down as Joe claims one. Brian trades back onto that Jaeger. 3 versus 4 now, and still plenty of time to work with for Helios, but they have that numbers disadvantage to worry about. And of course, these Echo drones are circling. V86 working in pairs. Goes for the run out there. The jump out works for draw. There is a response, though, from Brian, going down to very low HP. But again, 86 just keep themselves ahead of pace. V86 there again. Curly with a kill. Now Brian on so low HP and his position known. The bullets are coming his way. He's got a minute to work with, but 3 bodies to find who are scattered and seemingly no intel, as his entire team are just watching him try and clutch this one out in the 1 versus 3.
He's certainly in trouble from Draw, who he's just seen go inside the tunnel and he'll be working his way back up. There's definitely potential for a flank. With this amount of time, just play your angles, win your fights, and that's what Joe does. Round taken by the defense of Viperio. What do you do if you're Helios here, Joey? Because they're repeating a lot of the same mistakes.
It's a very tough one for them. I think that, honestly, any team would look shaky up against Viperio86. That's just as good a team as they are. But this is essentially Helios' choice. They had a choice here between Chalet and Bank. They've gone Bank. Like, maybe they don't like either, but either way, like, you've got to be prepped for everything by this stage.
If you're in EU League, you can't be, Challenger League even. You can't be too fussy about your maps necessarily.
I mean, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on them. This is, of course, the attacking half, and they have gathered 1. They really only need a couple or 1 more to be, doing decently. But at the moment, the way it's been going, Viperio86 has looked pretty dominant on the majority of these rounds. This basement attempt that they had before, where they were roaming quite heavily and had that sort of 1 down, 4 up approach, they're switching it up now. They're keeping Helios on their toes. They don't know how they're going to react. And in fact, if anything, is wrong-footed Helios here. As you can see, they've adapted to try and match that aggression that 86 are bringing out. The Jackal now being paired with that Dokkaebi that they've stuck. And instead, on the defense, you've got these anchors. You've got double catches on Iron Jaeger. You've got the Maestro who can sit tight. You've got really the only aggressively minded defender on this lineup is the Valkyrie, and she's flexible, she can anchor, so she's got a C4. Like, you can be the one holding from Red Hallway to deny the default plant. It's 86 are just on top right now, not just in terms of round, but in the mental game, I think.
They're looking very strong, certainly. They've opted for another Intel-based lineup here on the basement, opting away from the Echo and the Mozzie, but still bringing the Valkyrie, and this time bringing us the Maestro, who can certainly help with the way Helios were attacking last time. That being said, I certainly don't expect it, and by the looks of things, they're clearing top down instead, which is a very smart move, given that Viperio, I don't think Helios really located many of them in the previous round. They were all dead too quickly.
Yeah, it has been a problem for them. I like the fact that Joe has been put on a leash with the Maestro in some senses. But, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes that doesn't stop him. Either way, he's not involved in an opening death in the first minute or an opening kill in the first minute. So, I need to go easy on him at some point. Akari's got a very nice camera here that's seemingly gone undetected right by the Jackal and right by a big part of this Helios attack. You can see the elevator hatch being opened, and no doubt Akari and 86 will have a read on that. Both the vault hatch opened as well as that open and small office hatch. They're doing all the hatch work. Queen of hatches of Hibana, Brian getting to work, putting that operator to good use in the first half of the round.
Yep, lots available for the attackers now. They can decide exactly what they want to do. Nothing stopped their plans so far. No roaming people catching them off unexpectedly, and they're actually picking up the kills themselves to start off with. Purple finds Monkey as Robin is pushing in close to the garage. He catches off Joe in a moment of unawareness. That's probably not the right word. Draw is taken down as well, as Robin's just sitting in the middle of the site, dancing around finding kills. Purple is down elsewhere, but Brian's moved in alongside the Jackal and is now going for a nice plant. Shut down by the C4 from the Valkyrie, but instantly refragged again. Helios, they are in such close support of each other, and they take the round in the end. And again, another unorthodox single player maybe moving in through the site, catching off any unawareness from Viperio, but it's... I don't know what to make of it, Jerry.
I think strategically that was a much better stuff from Helios.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
They were so much clean in that round. The result speaks for itself, but you could see just the fact that they managed to open up every single hatch, give themselves all these options, meant that similar to like that kind of multi-pronged Oregon basement attack that we've gotten used to seeing, the defenders don't know where to look. Like, you've got almost all of those kills on the entry for Helios were free. Like, the defender had their back to them. It was a great little piece of play by Jackal, by Robin to come down those main stairs. I mean, open every hatch and then come down the stairs, that's a power play, right? Like, he caught 2 players off guard for free, and after that point, you know, 86 really couldn't do much. It was just, they were dead in the water. So it was a nice adaptation from Helios. They certainly made sure that they did their due diligence to, like, you know, facilitate that style of push. They wouldn't have been able to open up every hatch if they hadn't done a very thorough roam clear in the first place. It's just a shame that for Viperio86 they were all sitting on site, really providing very little resistance anyway. So Helios dictated that round quite simply, and now Viperio86, they're in a good spot still. They're heading to what is their tertiary site, this Teller's site. They decide not to go back to the basement because that was being... Oh, sorry, no, this is open area. This is open area stuff. They've gone to every site now. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, still keeping Helios on their toes, it would seem, but this hold looks pretty similar to the Teller's one. Essentially, you want to hold the top floor, you want to extend into archives, you've got this, once again, the castle to kind of lock down the site a bit more. A lot of intel-based ops, and the Oryx. I love an Oryx on back.
However, Helios, an area they've been excelling at to some degree is this kind of roam clear, making sure that they attack the round nice and carefully when they do go
got the
for
Lion
that
now as well.
at the very least. And of course, Lion-Jackal combination, incredibly good for doing that. Draw might be in trouble if he is the one dancing around looking for free kills anywhere. It's not going to be free in any case. Given the drone work as well, you can see from Helios already putting them to use to see exactly what they're dealing with. Draw's actually deep within the site, quite surprisingly. There are a lot of hatches to use there, but none safely. So a strange use of the Oryx. We'll see if that changes throughout the round. And this is the big impact. The Jackal, the tracks coming in, the EE1Ds. Brian takes a bit of damage there. I'm not sure what that was. Either way, nothing netted yet for the attackers.
Yeah, this is the kind of map that's a bit of an observer's nightmare. There's so much action to go and follow around the whole map that you've got to forgive them for missing 1 or 2 moments. But a lot of this top-down view is going to be super helpful, so I'm glad that our wonderful observer is providing us with plenty of that. You can see once again Nails just lurking around the bottom, and he may well come into contact with Curly fairly soon. It looks like they're in a Mexican standoff down here in the bank, and it's the Echo who will win things out, nailing that headshot onto the Dokkaebi. Nice shot dropped in chat by Nails, so a little bit of respect coming through there from opposition. You'd love to see, even in these sort of high stakes games, a good bit of sportsmanship.
Yeah, it's always pleasant. Viperio, they'll certainly be sitting happy with that man advantage, and a decent amount of time gone for the attackers, but they do have something to gain for themselves. A little bit of that ground has been taken, pushing players downstairs, but they're still losing men. Not just 1, but 2. Brian as the second man falling. Lion's gone. So is a lot of the intel, to be fair. Just Jackal and Ash left.
This is slowly dwindling for Helios as they lose that Jackal all up to the Ash now. 1 versus 5. Triggers those beepers, but will find drawing him in and casting a net over him, but he takes a hell of a lot of bullets in the follow-up. I was expecting a bit of aggression. Joe close with the super shorty will be the one to claim it for 86, at least the very first half going their way. 4-2 the split, and a very nice round there to close out for 86. So at the split now, going on to the attacking side, 86. Historically, I mean, they've been a very unpredictable team, but that's usually a bit more of a benefit on the defense here. They are trying some interesting things to keep Helios on their toes. The first of which is going to be an Amaru coming out from draw. Whether he sticks this or not, we will see. But it is a lockers room or lockers CCTV defense. So I don't know how much that Garrow Hook will come in handy.
I don't know who's the more unpredictable team at this point between these two. Maybe the historical precedent of Viperio, but at the same time, Helios throwing a lot of weird ones in there. A very different end to the round last time. It wasn't quick and painless as we saw previously. They were just falling one by one, and they weren't getting those refrags that they were enjoying a lot earlier. Especially Brian, usually there in positions to support his teammates. Not quite the case this time around. Now that they're on the defense, looking to change it. I do love that cap can. He can do a lot here because there are so many weird and cheeky doorways around here on bank that you often don't really have time to check. Unless you're a very quick team and you get things sorted quickly, you might just lose a good chunk of health or two during a round.
I just want to pick up on the fact that Joe and Akari, the most recent pickups for Viperio86, currently sitting at the top of the scoreboard for their team, alongside Curly, you know, Joe both on 6 there, but Akari on 8 is fantastic. And I mean, Joe and Akari between them have so much experience that, I mean, 86 weren't struggling with the lack of experience that they had on their side, but it's certainly going to benefit them, and it certainly has been. Like, Joe's just such a perfect fit for this team. It's something that Fresh has mentioned, and it's a very helpful blog. If you haven't checked out Fresh's blog, do go check it out. It's incredible. A wealth of information about the Challenger League teams and qualifiers. But either way, yeah, Joe, he's been a great pickup by, you know, early indications. If there anything to go by. C4 coming out there from Purple, trying to complete this flank onto the servers. He's alerted those 86 players, or well, the 2 players from Viperio86 to their positions, but Nitro with this soft wall has an advantage here. Trade comes through as the flanking Valkyrie is still in action, and Akari actually takes out Nitro. Purple taken down as well, and this pinch onto servers has not worked even slightly for Helios. Robin now has to flee back to site, and he's met with Joe, who's just holding main stairs. That was as easy as you like from Viperio86, direct and to the point.
It was the exact same result, but on opposite sides to their first attack of that site. Just maybe get the first pick or so, and then absolute flurry against them. Incredible play from Viperio. It was very close to going right for Helios, though, in that position. Inventive open hatch play from the Valkyrie with the call for the support from Nitro, I believe, on the cap can to come around and catch a player off. He just didn't see the player prone in that position. If he wins that fight, I think the round's very different from that spot, especially if it's before the Valkyrie dies as well on blue stairs. Either way, a lot of what ifs, but right now, Helios, they got to worry about a bit more than that, because the actual facts themselves are that they're 3 rounds behind.
I know we painted the Jackal earlier as a kind of response to the way that 86 were roaming so heavily on their attack, but I mean, this is Bank. If you've watched Bank in the past, Jackal was essentially a mainstay. We even see Jackal bans occasionally here because he is just that powerful and a bit of a comfort operator for a lot of players as well. That C70 is a fantastic weapon in the right hands. So yeah, it's a perfect piece of utility for a map that's so sprawling, so massive, and you really need to pin down any roamers early on. Footsteps, just gold dust for any roam hunt. So Nails, I mean, he's had a bit of a rough time. I feel like the 2 and 6 hasn't been doing him justice, to be honest. I feel like he's been one of the more impactful players on Helios in terms of where he's positioning himself, how he's, you know, leading the charge a lot of the time, and it's just sometimes that execution's not working out for him.
Yeah, you can have one of those days. You just don't win enough. Obviously, if he wants to top competing team, they're going to have to turn around quickly. He has quite a few rounds against them now. You don't want to start things off in your group stage debut game with a loss. Either way, the cap can has been switched out for the Frost, which makes a lot of sense given the attacking approach of Viperio. Although this round, they're doing a different thing and they're going top down. They're going a bit more methodical and slow, which might be where that cap can would be more useful, actually, with the setup. So we'll have to wait and see. Those little cheeky spots close to the site, same thing applies. Can catch off a man at just the wrong moment.
Curry just destroying some foliage up there. He's not a fan of the potted plants, it would seem. He's worked his way into Janitor's hallway, and he has a lock on one player inside of Monitors, but it's actually the defenders who will net the first kills, and Robin flees from that position. So now Akari is left chasing a ghost, as is Monkey. 3 versus 5 draw, just pushing his way down the stairs, but Nitro with his second kill around collects onto draw, and now 2 versus 5. This is swinging heavily in favour of Helios, as this roam clear has fallen flat on its face. A very aggressive roam being met there by Helios. So
you don't necessarily expect that with this lineup either, so it was very nicely done by Helios. And now they've got all that intel. They've got the goo mines, which are just stocking up and up as this round goes on. The traps within the site, it's going to be a nightmare. The lack of intel as well, directly within the site at the very least for Viperio. They're not going to be able to provide that for themselves as a 2 versus 5. They're going to have to focus on the fights. 1 minute remains, and gargantuan task. I don't know why that was difficult. The Jackal, though, it didn't work out. We've seen a lot of good roam clears today, and that was the first time we've really seen something falter as such. Looks like a nice exothermic charge and a dropping sledge. Down they go into the vault. Nice quick push. Obviously that sound you imagine will be heard, so their presence will be expected. However, who will be there to greet them? The open arms of Nails.
And Purple. Very quick stuff being made there. Very quick work being made of Helios of 86 that round, and we're going to be having a quick tactical timeout, it would seem, as
more of a bizarre tactical battle. New map. Quite a few new players as well, just changing around the strategies, and of course those bizarre bans. If you've just joined us, you've noticed that at the top of your screen from Helios. It's not a huge surprise from their lineup, given that they've done it in the past, but on this stage, a little bit bizarre, and it's not working out in their favor. They're going to have to start flexing some of those more bizarre operator picks and strategies, and here they come with at least the Frost Vigil and the Rook on top of that. You imagine this castle setup is the same. It looks like it is from Brian, as we saw from 86 earlier on.
It's an unconventional lineup, to say the least. I would say most likely that Rook is just there for the 2-time scope. I mean, that's the main reason you'd be bringing a Rook in this day and age. They are actually going for the same strategy that we just saw, in fact, that employed by Viperio86. It seems that this is becoming the standard way of holding CEO. Like I said earlier, it's something that Virtus Pro employed a fair bit in their EU League games, but I mean, they're not the only ones to have done it, just the one that springs to mind, and we can see that it's starting to catch on, as it is a really, really nice way of just keeping yourself protected up there. The Vigil and the Mozzie certainly a potent combo at the best of times, and when it comes to Viperio86, they are all about the entry kills. Stymieing some of that intel that you have to gather to facilitate those entry kills is a good plan for Helios.
Yep, early round, Viperio quickly getting to work, much like their opposition. Finding the first kill, Joe yet again. He's always involved in those kills. This time it's in his favor, that 8-5 split for him personally. Certainly helping his team out. They're looking for that 6th round. It would get them onto match point and really put the pressure on their opposition here on this particular site. I do like the variety opted for as well in the Viperio lineup. They have a lot of different options to attack this site, and they seem very spread out right now. I'm interested to see where they decide to pinch in the end, because if they commit the right numbers and use this utility like the nades we're seeing right now, they can start to really punish these players. Oh, actually an open back site. I did not see that at first.
Yeah, that's quite often the way that teams would like to play it. Sometimes you'll see one of those walls reinforced, but they like having the long angle towards these square stairs so that it's really not a stronghold at all for the attackers. They don't want even really want to set foot in that now because of the way it's set up. But you can see there's a fair amount of presence on this north side. Draw finally coming off the rappel, but he will step straight into the waiting arms of Purple, who's managed to rotate down to elevators and will gather that up with ease. So 4 versus 4 ensuing. You've got 2 players from Viperio86 pushing from this square stairs area, and the other 2 on the other side. Curly picks up Brian, and Brian picks up Curly. A direct trade, it would seem, between the castle and the Habana on the other side of the map. And now Purple, well, he's just got a bit of a playground. As soon as you lose more bodies, it becomes a bit more defender favoured. They've got so much to play with here. Robin just missing the opportunity there to blow a hole underneath the sledge as he swings on in, but Nitro, the Frost, has gone down. So Monkey tries swinging in, and Robin comes up the stairs. It's all dynamic. Everything's happening everywhere right now. Purple with the long angle. Again, that 2x scope coming in clutch, and Joe now in the 1 versus 2 effectively as Nitro is down for the count. He knows that the Mozzie is away from, around square stairs, and he knows that the... Oh, no! Oh, no!
It's the sneaky Matt. We knew it was coming. Nitro finally managed to get it. He's clearly enjoying himself.
Oh, I was setting up for like, oh, he knows where the Mozzie is. He knows where the... Quack.
Nope. Down he goes. The sneaky Matt. He's been playing Capcan. He's played Frost previously. Not quite worked until that final moment. Of course, a lot of the work was already done. It wasn't the most influential one at the end of the round. But oh well, funny moment anyway. Helios have found their way back in though. Much better at this 4-5 split. They seem to have picked it up on the defense. A bit of a change of mentality. Clearly more comfortable on the defense, I think we can say quite assuredly. And they're opting for staff room and open area as well, which was rather chaotic the previous time we saw it. But, I'm confident now that Helios have what it takes to offer a victory on this particular side.
It's a very strange sight, to be honest, because a lot of the time it just comes down to TDM on bank.
Sure.
There are very few situations where an attackers can kind of take key pieces of ground to get into the site safely, because it's almost a kill box at times. There's a few too many options for defenders to rotate in and out, and usually you have to clear the top floor, and by that point you've gotten enough control, but the plant isn't really necessary. So it's a weird one, but you may well see a plant here or there. VIP86, like I have said in the past, they do take a slightly more direct route occasionally. You can see Monkey has spawned with Diffuser by that alley, or rather by the northeast side. I just said northeast side.
That's better. I mean, I prefer that to good old Elder Brain as a caster. He often says the east hand side of the map.
What?
The east hand side.
Like
consider that, everybody.
Wow.
Raise your east hand if you agree that's stupid.
I'm raising all my east hands right now. Which way is north? Yeah, okay. I'm raising my east hand.
Helios, they got a good lineup here. Often we've seen so much focus on intel with these defensive lineups, and the Pulse and the Valkyrie is no exception. It's going to give a lot of help when it comes to the early round move, especially from Viperio, as they've been going for a lot of methodical roam clears. Sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. But as long as their positions are quite comfortably observed by Brian here, and maybe even Nails as he's watching those black eyes, Helios can be quite comfortable with it and adjust around it accordingly.
Elder Brain just caught me out in chat there.
Oh,
right
did he?
Hand, left hand, east hand, west hand. I'm not sorry, he says. I still need further explanation from that, but regardless, we've got a round in front of us. Robin finding Joe early on. Again, Joe, I won't even comment at this point. The Roni appearing on our kill feeds, that's also not a surprise, but that man disadvantage going into this round, not what Viperio86 want. They want to push on to match point as soon as possible, and instead it looks like Helios are set to try and tie it up with, like I said, or like we said earlier, a very intel-focused defensive side. Robin with a second frag now, finding the head of Curly, and now it's looking pretty dire for 86.
I mean, you can see how comfortable they are right now, just holding these positions close to the side, watching their intel. There we go. Nice C4 kill. Easy as you like, really, for a Pulse. I'm not sure Viperio are aware of that. They probably will be now, as Brian suddenly reveals himself. But it's not an issue, because you're a 2 versus 5. For Viperio, and that's a long, long way to come back the way Helios are playing right now. It's an entirely different side to what they started out at.
Yeah, looking a little bit limp here, but Akari has managed to take sight. However, he's taken down by Purple. Monkey doing his hardest to fight back as Nails has been down, and he takes Brian as well. 1 versus 2, but on very low HP, and Nitro has this fantastic angle that favors him. Nails is actually the one to collect that frag as he's res just beforehand and sends that spray through the wall. Very nicely done by the Valkyrie, tying us up 5-5 as they complete a perfect circuit on the defense. Helios are back in this one.
A gorgeous shot and some very nice team play from Helios. I guess we can write off that slow start. at the very beginning of the game. I think they've found their stride now. They're definitely in it, looking very confident. Lockers and CCTV, they're definitely the most bizarre of sights so far today, and I expect no exception in this instance either. The Vigil, usually picked onto by a lot of the defenders today, has been picked off towards the smoke, which does indicate a slightly more cautious setup. There have been so many gaps, though, within these defensive holds on the basement. A lot of players sneaking in areas you wouldn't necessarily expect. I don't know if that's necessarily just how Bank is sometimes, as it's quite new back into the scene.
There's a lot of places you have to keep your eye on, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
that's why we've got so many intel ops, but they're not. Yeah. They're still not necessarily revealing that for anybody right now.
On both sides as well. Like you've got the Jackal Yana being brought out by Joe and Draw. One thing you got to know about Viperio 86 is that they never make things easy for themselves. Like throughout their entire run, from UKIN 2, UKIN 1, all of their CL Open qual games, they had a tendency to take games the full distance no matter what. And I mean, I said at the start of UKIN season, I know I keep on harping on about UKIN, but this is just where I know them from, that any game that involves 86 is going to be a good one, because they're a fantastic squad, but they don't make it easy for themselves at all. And you can see that right now. We're in the 5-5, and they've just kind of let it slip. They look like they were, taking control of this, but now it's basically back to square one. They need to try and get 2 rounds under their belt before Helios get any, ideally. Down in the basement, we will go. The Frost again being brought out by Nitro, but these placements should be new to Viperio 86, so they won't be expecting them down here on this bottom floor. Akari once again destroying that potted plant that he hates so much as he begins to sweep through the top floor.
What's wrong with it? I don't understand. Either way, a lot of hard breach opted for by Viperio. We've seen both teams opening as much as possible in terms of the hatches when it comes to pushing defenders out of their comfortable positions. But at the same time, I don't think we've quite seen the full utilization of those sorts of plans, those operators as well in this game. And we're seeing definitely a bit of a black-eyed play. Joe's position noted. He hasn't seen it yet. Purple acts upon it brilliantly. Shuts down Joe early in the round. He's always the one who's active. This time, not his favor.
No, and that's some key utility and intel that's been lost from Yana. You always think, oh yeah, Yana, she's the gunner of the team. She's going to get the frags. But you lose that Gemini, which can, bypass so many things that would deny you droning ability. These pests, for instance, they're going to stop drones, but they would not stop a Gemini. So that's a lot of this potentially being lost here. You see Lamosi actually playing inside of Cash. That's a very strange position for anyone besides a Pulse. I'm so used to seeing a Pulse in there trading utility back and forth. We haven't actually seen a ton of that across EUL, across the reintroduction of Bank, but this trade of utility is still important. A few C4s on the side, 3 in fact of Helios, and they also have these gas canisters to stall, and that is the name of the game when it comes to locking out this CCTV site. Curly trying to get a bit of a backstab going as he's sneaking round to that vault hatch. Robin is down there ready to receive it. Curly goes for the drop and Robin surely hears it. He is there and waiting. An easy cleanup for him. 3 versus 5 now, and utility has been baited out successfully, but Monkey has gone down. Bit of a trade going out there. Akari and Draw now left alive in the 1 versus 2, but they don't expect Brian, who snuck his way into lockers, or a server rather. And that's a very nice cleanup there from Helios. They managed to swing this map back in their favor. Match point now, and they are staring down the barrel of 3 points for them in the standings of this group stage.
It's a good barrel to stare down.
Yeah.
I guess it's the barrel of a glitter gun or something. I don't know exactly what that is. But either way, Viperio were very close. There were quite a few players in close position. I think the Jackal accidentally allowing a player to push in close and take down the Thermite. Just a little bit of lack of coverage, and that might have just sealed the round there. A bit too much to do and not enough time to do it in. The Hibana, you can see Curly as well, just dropping in, hoping no one's around in the vault, but there are enough players still alive on the defensive side to watch it. Very unfortunate. Not quite doing enough of the early round work, it would seem. They're clearing roams with a decent efficiency. They're gaining ground, but when it comes to the execute, Viperio have actually been lacking that somewhat, which is not something I generally relate to them. It's not something.
No, it is a bit worrying. It is a bit worrying given what you expect from them or what we expect from them.
Yes.
Helios are, you know, they're comfortable enough to now mix things up on the top floor. They're dropping that castle. And it's never a good thing as an attacking side if you're being constantly surprised by things. We saw the Vigil be 6 picked off by Brian for the Valkyrie, sticking a couple of cams around. One we just saw go down inside of monitors there, but you can expect a lot of these fights to happen well before they reach those positions. I believe that's an Echo drone that's being highlighted inside of Lone Office, just on top of the wall that divides it from the main portion of lobby. So a lot of intel going around for these defenders, and Draw is going for a fairly direct entry into this dirt tunnel, but he's met with Brian, who takes out the drone, I believe, and that is just going to spell a U-turn for Draw as he sends himself back the way of the rest of his team. That was a very sensual
a lot to ponder, a lot to consider, and it's all very tasty as well. Viperio, slow start to the round, just cluing out what they want to do exactly. This lineup, again, it's very similar to previous. It offers them a lot of versatility when it comes to the move, but they've never quite seemed to have the right idea of what their execute should be. And then when putting it in practice on top of that, it's been a mixed bag, to say the very least. Joe, they know he's coming in through ATMs. They might not know about the support or the nades necessarily, but it won't trouble Nitro for now. His main damage, not sure where that came from, but it's a very direct move from Viperio. They need some extra help here.
So, still, yeah, just a bit of a stall here. It's thin. It's a very slow push here. Purple has found Helios for opening kill as well, so again, Viperio86 just looking lackluster, and this could be do or die here. They don't want to lose this first best of one. However, they do claim purple. Rook goes down, but it's a flurry of kills for Helios as they just dismantle this entire lobby push. Everyone coming up the stairs to their death. Draw now has to go it solo. Finds Nitro, but it swings and roundabouts for them right now. He needs to swing every corner. It's a pretty roundabout way of saying it, but this is Viperio86's last chance. Oh, what a snap there to nails, but it's not enough as Robin flutters on through, finds him from Banana. V86, they lose their first game of these CL group stages. Helios, they are your victors today.
We certainly didn't see that coming at the start of that game. Helios having a bad first couple of rounds, but they took enough with them, I think, during the attack.